if everything is working. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to wait a few moments to start the interview because everybody should. Just waiting for some people to get in. And yeah, okay, we're being aired. That's great. I'm gonna open the chat. There you go. All right. So yeah, we're gonna dive into it. So hello everyone. I hope everybody can hear us just fine and is tuning in right now for the interview. So, oh wait, I'm hearing myself. Okay, no, that's me. Perfect. So, good evening, everyone. So, my name is Raphael. I'm the creative director for Game Brewer, and right now, as you know, we are having a Kickstarter campaign of a game called Hippocrates by Alain Orban. Now, Alain Orban is probably a name many of you know. He's been the co-designer of many great games like Trois and Black Angel, Tourner les Dames de Trois, of course. So welcome, Alain. Thank you so much for actually, joining us tonight for this little interview.
Thanks a lot for the invite, Raf.
Yeah, no, of course. So we're gonna just dive into it. By the way, a little note for everyone. If you want to ask some questions to Alain, don't hesitate. I'll be monitoring the questions coming into the chat. And then, but yeah, we're gonna dive into it. We obviously have some questions prepared for tonight. So first question, Alain, is how did you get into board games in general?
As far as I remember, we've always played board game at home when I was a kid with my parents, sister, and things like that.
Yeah.
We were playing Risk, Cluedo, and a lot of card games.
Yeah.
So we've always played, and it was something of being all the family together. It was always a great pleasure.
Yeah.
So when I get older, I continue that. I would say that I'm 55 years old, so I'm not so young. So at the at the late 80s, early 90s, there was games that were coming in the market that were a little bit different than Risk and so on. So the first game that I remember was Formula D, was still there. It's a game in 91, from Ludo Delir.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, it was a really nice game. And also I've played a lot with Valley of Mammoth from Bruno Feiduti at that moment. So it's really at that moment in the late 80s that I've really started to have a passion about games. So starting there, every birthday, every Christmas, I receive game. I'm asking games. So that's why my collection has increased a lot since then.
Yeah, I can imagine. No, like many of us. So then obviously, you got into board games, but then what actually pushed you to start designing games themselves?
Okay, what it pushed me, I don't really know. But I remember that when I was a kid, I've created a game. My first game, I was young. It was a pinball game, with dice and things like that.
Yeah.
It was already funny.
Okay.
And after that, I don't know. I always thought that I was not a creative because I'm an engineer. So engineer is 1 + 1 equal 2. So you are not so creative. So I never thought that I was creative, but I discovered it. And I think that my first game that I've created is a game about sport. It was a decathlon game. You can see the picture here. Nice picture.
Yeah, exactly. Very cool.
Yeah. And so that game, I think that I was inspired a little bit by Formula D, rolling dice to progress. And I did it with the 10 contest of decathlon.
Yes.
It was funny for me, for the family too, but in summary, it was 95% of throwing dice and not a lot of choice. But it's already in my heart because it's my really first games I've created.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so you started designing games yourselves. So when did you actually start designing your first published game?
I think that in December 2004, I created a game to play with my children, and the game was to run around the table and to try to find the place to sit. And I thought that it was funny, and it was because I've been playing during the Christmas holiday with my children and a lot, and they really enjoyed it. So I said, okay, beginning of January, I've sent my game to the contest of Boulogne-Billancourt in France. It's very well. Okay,
that's very
so
famous.
I sent the game in January, and I've just created the game 15 days before. So
wow, okay,
yeah,
that is crazy.
It was working, so I said, okay, I'm gonna send it. And my goal was not to have it. My goal was to have feedback, on my game.
Yes.
And finally, the game has progressed. It was selected among the 80s and among the 20s. So I've been in final with that game. So I was really surprised because nobody was knowing me. Yeah. And the game didn't win. Okay, but but one of the member of the jury, is a Belgian guy, Michel van Langendonk. He said that the game. You know him, maybe? Yes. Okay. He said that the game for him. I didn't know him. He said the game should fit Repo Production. Repo Production.
Yeah.
They've been doing Time's Up and after Cash and Gun, and so he said they should be interested. So they sent the prototype to them. So I didn't send the prototype. I agreed to send it, and a few months later, I got a call from them. Can you come? And I went to their office, and they say, okay, don't search for a publisher. Your game will be published. So I was the happiest man in the world because it has always been my dream to have one game published. So that's how it started, And that game became Santiano that you can see here.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's a great story though. That's pretty cool that it happened so quickly in the end. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I was surprised because I didn't search for any publisher at that moment. I just said
no.
And okay. It's not always like that. It's much harder to find publisher. But
yeah. No, that's fair enough. Okay, very cool. So then we know about this, but let's maybe talk a little bit more about obviously the project at hand, which is Hippocrates.
Yes.
So what inspired you to design that game? Because I know you've done a lot of games like co-designing, but this one obviously was your big baby, I want to say. So how did that come about?
It's exactly that. It's really my baby. I've created a lot of games with Sébastien and Xavier. It was a real pleasure. On my own, I think that I've also created between 20 and 30 different games. So, but this one, Hippocrates, has been really the one that I've worked on for 2 or 3 years because it immediately tilted for me. Mm-hmm. So how did it happen, Hippocrates? So in 2017, during the summer holidays, we went to the beautiful island of Kos with my wife.
Yes.
Thank you for that, because she's the one that has said, should we go to Kos? So we've been there.
Yeah.
And during those holidays, we've decided to do a one-day turn in the island. So we've visited the city of Kos, where we've seen the tree of Hippocrates too. And after that, we went to the temple of Asclepius that I didn't know. I knew nothing about that. And we've learned when we arrived there that it was the first hospital in the world. Mm-hmm. Okay, very good news. And the guide explained that Hippocrates has a lot of reputation as other thing like that, and that people were coming from all around the Mediterranean Sea to go and to be treated there because Hippocrates was bringing a new type of treating the patient and things like that.
Yes.
And while she was explaining, I remember where I was. I said, "Oh, it's a good game, good idea for a game." So I started to think. I say, "Okay, it would be good to have doctors to treat patients and things like that."
Yeah.
So we continued the visit, and we've seen the ruin of the temple of Asclepius. It was so beautiful.
Yeah.
And the guide was really. It was really funny to hear her talking about that, and I had the impression to be there. So when we left there, we were in the bus, and I started to sing the mechanics. And so when I came back in the evening at the hotel, I always take my white wine as aperitif. So I started to write all my ideas.
Yeah.
And I think in a few days I had 10 pages full of ideas.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So, but for your information, I've published my designer diary on Board Geek.
Yes, exactly.
I explained all of them because really, since the beginning, it was very important for me. I don't know why, but so I did it during my vacation, my holidays, and when I came back home. We came back, I think, on Wednesday. On Thursday, the prototype was ready. And I started to play on that. So really what has inspired me is really the visit that we did, the guide that explained us that, and it immediately came in my mind that it would. I often work like that. 90% of my game, I start them with the team.
Yeah.
That brings the mechanic and not the inverse.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, very, very cool. So you mentioned actually your designer diary that was published on Board Game Geek.
Yeah.
We'll also post an update probably tomorrow actually on the Kickstarter with a link, but you can already check it out on the Hippocrates Board Game Geek page, obviously. But for people who maybe haven't read it yet or are curious, can you tell us actually a little bit about your design process and maybe specifically in regards to Hippocrates,
Yeah.
like what were specific challenges you maybe faced with this game?
Honestly, I didn't face a lot of challenge, and it was not. Of course, you have a lot of challenge. You have to work on the prototype. It doesn't come like that. But as I said, the first idea that I have, I think that 80% of the game was already there.
Nice.
Since the beginning. So I don't know if we call that an inspiration. I don't know, but it was like that. And so I immediately, as I say, built a prototype, play with my daughter and with my son and things like that, and it was going well. So it was the first game ever that I've presented to people outside of my family and group. So so quick. After 2 or 3 weeks, I went to a club in not far from me, and I say, okay, I'd like to present you a game. Generally, I'm a little bit shy of presenting games, and there. I've been there and they've played it and they say, okay, if it is published, we will buy it. So it gives you really motivation to continue. And of course, I had to work a lot to find the right equilibrium and other things like that. You know that the way that I do, it's always funny. When I work a lot on my own on the prototype, so I always play the role of 3 or 4 players. But I really play the role. I play the role in my mind, and after I go to the second player, forgetting the other one.
Exactly. Like, what would I do if I was in this position? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And so the first test I do like that to see if the mechanisms are okay, to change them. And after that, when the mechanisms are better, are quite good. So I play again 3 or 4 players, but with different strategy to see, okay, this one is going to try to get a lot of medicine. This one is going to search for reputation. This one is only going to search for VP.
Yeah, and exactly.
Yes, to try to find if there is no big way to win. And so what was the most, I wouldn't say difficult thing, but the thing that has changed the most in the game was the reputation track. Reputation track is the one that I had, because reputation in the game is not very self-speaking. If you need to have some, yes, but are you going to take medicine or reputation? Reputation brings you nothing at that moment, but after it will bring you the fact that you can choose first.
Exactly. No, it's very...
So it's something that was hard to balance, to find the right balance. When you look at the reputation track, now everybody says, well, it's easy, it's just so simple, but to build it, it was not so simple. It was, for me, the biggest challenge that I had.
That's interesting. Well, I guess a lot of, like you say, it's balancing and fine-tuning and making sure everything is interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I think that's what I really liked when I played the prototype, was to think we have not a ton of different elements, but there's definitely different strategies that you can follow, and each one of them is viable. You know, it's a remarkably balanced game, I think, and that's why, I mean, we fell in love with it. So that's great. All right, cool. So we've talked obviously a little bit about your design process and your history, but I kind of want to know if you, for instance, have some designer heroes a little bit, other game authors whose work you really admire.
Yeah. As I said, I've started to play early 90s, really new games. So, of course, my heroes, I would say, are the first designer, mainly from Germany. You know, you have Klaus Teuber, Wolfgang Kramer, that was really my first games, strategical games, and I remember that when we were when we finished third at the Deutsche Spielpreis with Trois. In the evening, we've been there and we were third, and in the same there were people there that were my heroes, and they were there with me on the so it was really surprising to be part of them. So it was the German, I would say, designer, and I have also some French designer that I really appreciate. It's Bruno Faiduti, for instance.
Yes.
I say that Valley of Mammoth, but also Diamant, which is a very good guessing game, or Citadel or thing like that. So I really like his game, and also someone like Roberto Fraga. Roberto Fraga is someone that I know now that I can go with him, but he's a really nice guy, and he has a lot of imagination. So sometimes you say Rainer Knizia is more strategic, well-organized game. Roberto Fraga is more a crazy game.
Yes.
But I like all of them.
Okay, it fits. So maybe a really difficult question, but do you have, like, what is your favorite board game of all time and why?
Of course, it's a difficult question.
Yes.
Because, we don't have one game, and I will not speak about my game. So
no, that's fair enough.
My game and the game that I've co-designed, I'm talking about now. I think that really the most inspiring game for me and the game that I prefer is Puerto Rico.
Yes.
You know, Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
And I've got a special edition that is wonderful. So
yeah, I know. I actually have
traded against Tournai, so I was really happy with that. And I think that Puerto Rico has everything that I appreciate in a game, because it plays quite quickly. It's simple, but a lot of different strategy. You are playing role, but you are not really blocking the other. You are always building things, and in, I would say, an easy way, but very clever things. So I think that even when my son and my daughter were young, we've been playing games like Puerto Rico because it's not so difficult to understand the rules. You have to get a little bit used to that, but I think that but there is a lot of strategy and a lot of fun. Which is very good.
No, agreed. I actually played Puerto Rico a couple of weeks ago, and it just remains a game that, it is really brilliant. I really enjoy it.
Very brilliant.
That is very nice. Okay, cool. I know it's difficult, obviously, to say the one game, but
No. And maybe in Hippocrates, you maybe will find something from Puerto Rico, now that I'm speaking about it.
Yeah.
Because the bribe that you add on each patient at the end of the round is a little bit like the money that you add on the roll.
That is true. Yeah, to make them more appealing.
It's not a copyright.
No, I know. Well, it's a mechanic I think we've seen in other games as well, I don't think it's wholly original anymore, but yeah. Great. So maybe, because this could be really interesting, obviously, because a lot of people design games as well. Like it may be interesting to know, but as a publisher as well, we are always kind of amazed at how many prototypes we get presented each year, and especially during conventions, which hopefully will take place soon. But maybe can you give any tips or any advice to anyone that would actually be interested in pursuing a career in game design?
Yes. I'm not really a professional of game design. It's my hobby. So my advice would be just take that as a hobby first, because you need to. Yes. Take that as a hobby. Don't wish to have a career of that. But if you are able to do so, yes, let's do it. But I think that why are we creating game is to have fun, is to share. Is to share the things that you are building with the other, is to play with people that are happy with the game that you've created. So I think that it's the most important part. And what the advice that I will give is first create game that you appreciate, that you want to play with. Don't create game that have a highest probability to be published or to win things. So first create games that you like. And after, of course, with your experience, you can maybe try to target a different type of games to be published. But if you don't do that with your heart, don't do it. I think that it's passion that drives first. And of course, if you want to do a career on that, you have, of course, to maybe change a little bit your way of thinking. But from my side, it's a hobby. And I just want it to stay a hobby.
Okay. No, that's very good. Well, thank you for that advice. So, Alain, we're slowly reaching the end of the interview. We always kind of wrap up with a very typical question for game brewers, because everybody knows us, in Essen, especially for, the bar that we have where we serve Belgian beers and others. But what is your favorite brew? Is it coffee? Is it tea? Or is it beer?
It all depends at what time,
Yes.
Now it could be a beer.
Yes.
No, honestly, I drink a lot of coffee, but coffee in the morning during the day to stay awake. Of course, I never drink tea. I'm not a fan of tea, but I drink a lot of coffee, 4 or 5 cups during the days.
Okay, yeah, you are a good coffee drinker.
But when I'm working, I like to make some break, and to make a break, I go to the coffee machine or something like that. So I drink a lot of coffee, so I really like coffee. But of course, as a Belgian guy, Belgian beer, so I'm really fan of beer. But I just like the normal blonde beer. And of course, I still practice football, so after a good training,
I can imagine.
Some good beer, it's so good. So I would say maybe for the fun, it's the beer. But for the day-to-day, it will be coffee.
It would be coffee. Okay, excellent. Well, is there maybe anything before we wrap this up that you would still maybe like to share with the audience, or?
Oh, yeah. I think that it's important when you are in the game design. You are in the game design. I am in the game design. I think that the most important thing is the relationship between people. And that's what I really found with Game Brewer. You are a publisher, but I think that as I said in my diary, it's really the first time when you've received me in a sense that I really felt to be someone important, which is very good. And I think that relationship is the most important part when you are working. But for game design also, because you have to trust each other, you have to have fun with each other. So I would say that it's very important to have that contact with you and with all the team, with Rudy, Seb, and things like that. So it was very good. Yeah, and also I wanted to highlight something that I really, of course, like my game, Hippocrates, the mechanism, but the job that you've done with your team and with Laura from illustration, you've magnified the game. I couldn't have dreamt of a better illustration graphic and for the game. And honestly, I'm telling that to you and all the team. I'm really proud of the work that you've all done.
Well, thank you very much. No, it's been, I mean, for us, it's been obviously a great honor to work with you, and it's been really fun. And Laura was wonderful. I mean, we're going to have actually an interview with her in 2 weeks, Monday, yes. I think on the 25th, if I know this still by heart. But yeah, she's done an incredible job, and it was quite the challenge. We'll talk about that as well. But yeah, the amount, we've never had a game with this many illustrations. Honestly, it's by far the biggest game when it comes to amount of illustrations. It was an incredible job. So, but yeah, it was fun to see it come to life.
Yeah.
And
I'm really happy that you've taken the choice to make illustration for each patient, each doctor, because we have the feeling to treat real people with the name and thing like that. So it was very, very important to make that decision. I know that it's not easy with a lot of illustration.
Yes.
And I would like to take the opportunity to say happy birthday to Laura.
Yes, I know, it is her birthday, so I hope she's celebrating right now. Excellent. Well, Alain, thank you so very much. Thank you for everyone tuning in. We will also be posting this on YouTube later on for those who missed it. But I wish everybody a really good evening. And if you have any other questions, obviously don't hesitate to put them in the comments on the Kickstarter campaign. Thanks already to all the backers. It's been really wonderful to see so many people supporting this game. And we're very excited to bring a really beautiful production to you guys later this year. Have a great evening, everyone. And see you very soon.
Bye-bye. See you. Thank you.